Today we are here with a new area, perhaps most recently discussed and contemporaneously relevant area, that is polity for prelims 2020. As we all know, when we take the seriousness or the importance of UPSC prelims examination, not only prelims but even mains examination, certain subjects come to the forefront naturally, and certain subjects are supposed to be very important in comparison with certain other subjects. As we already discussed, when we create or when we try to or attempt to create an importance map, it is certainly sure that the first and the topmost important subjects include those areas like the Indian Constitution and polity, the Indian history, especially the modern Indian, the medieval Indian, and the ancient Indian history with culture coupled together, and of course, environment or ecology, which are the three most important subjects from the UPSC point of view. Today I am attempting to unfold, today I am attempting to deal with the relevance of polity or the relevance of Indian Constitution as a paper for UPSC prelims, and what all questions you can expect in 2020, or what would be the probable trend with regard to UPSC prelims 2020 for Indian polity and Constitution of India. Since no civil servant can ever escape his responsibility of learning the Constitution of India and understanding the political situation of the country, this can be considered, of course, equally with that of history, this can be considered as the most important area from the UPSC or the civil service point of view, because this is actually the crux of the examination and the most vital area of the examination. If we go for a cruise analysis of the question papers, maybe from 2014, the importance of polity has been increasing in all these question papers. And one more recurring trend can be seen with regard to polity, that contemporary areas or those aspects of contemporary importance were becoming more and more relevant over a period of time. Naturally, today I may be attempting to divide. I may be doing one more session on polity since it's a broad area. Today I may be giving you a general outline with regard to what to read and what not to read in polity. With regard to reference book, to begin with, your foremost reference book should be Indian Constitution, written by D.D. Basu. D.D. Basu is a familiar and a popular author for all of you, and D.D. Basu is a must read for those candidates who are preparing for both UPSC prelims as well as for KIS examination. For a convenience point of view, of course, Indian polity written by Lakshmikant also can be suggested as a reference book, certainly, but certainly not as the final or a high quality textbook, because Indian polity written by Lakshmikant is largely drawn from the original source, and that is nothing other than D.D. Basu. D.D. Basu is actually simplified in Lakshmikant. Other than D.D. Basu and Lakshmikant, you can also read NCERT books that specifically deals with governance and administration in the country, especially politics textbook of standard 11 and standard 12 as prescribed by NCERT. Once the textbook or the reference books are over, we can directly step into the crucial areas of UPSC prelims 2020 from the polity point of view. What would be the most crucial area? I have been analyzing question papers from 1990s onwards, and out of my analysis, I realized that certain areas are very important, and the first among those areas, without any doubt I can say that the first among those areas is the Indian Constitution, especially three core areas of the Constitution of India. One is the fundamental rights, from where you can expect a number of questions, especially those things that imply the fundamental rights. The second one is the DPSP, or the Directive Principles of State Policy, and the third one being the fundamental duties, which is actually three continuous areas of the Constitution of India. Part 3, Part 4 and Part 4A of the Constitution, the fundamental rights, the directive principles of state policy, and the fundamental duties, which a candidate should definitely read if he is preparing for UPSC prelims examination. Once these three broad areas are over, of course these three are the core areas, and again how questions can come from these areas. Certainly, you can use Lakshmikant or you can use D.D. Basu, absolutely no problem. But when you read these books, please read along the lines very carefully. Especially, please read the lines and the implied meaning of them closely. I'll give you an example. Say, for example, UPSC maybe in 2016 or 17 had raised a question with regard to the objective of fundamental rights. The question was like this: a fundamental rights has been placed in the constitution to ensure, I repeat, to ensure dash. Many candidates had different answers, and UPSC gave 4 or 5 options. One was economic democracy, the other was cultural democracy, the other was social democracy, and the last option was political democracy. These were the 4 broad options given by UPSC. And many candidates may be a little puzzled because that candidate has not understood the implied meaning of fundamental rights, and many of them may be going for social democracy or social and economic democracy. But none of these are the purposes of introducing fundamental rights. But UPSC has only one purpose, and that is ensuring political democracy. Here actually a candidate should closely read these areas. If I twist the same question again, what is the purpose of introducing directive principles of state policy? Again, that is a doubtful question. Many candidates may think, okay, DPSP is just like a non-justiciable set of instructions that is given to the government of India to how to carry forward the governance of the country. What would be the purpose of DPSP? Obviously, it is ensuring social and economic democracy in the country. So naturally, the implied objective of fundamental rights is different from that of DPSP. But if a candidate is not reading these areas carefully, if a candidate is not reading these areas cautiously, he may naturally miss all these things, and he may only have a factual understanding of these things. And believe me, UPSC has not been asking any factual question related to fundamental rights, DPSP, or fundamental duties in the last 3 years. That means in 2017, 2018, and in 2019. No factual question has been asked from any of these areas, and definitely they are not factual, but they are supposed to be understood conceptually. And once these 3 areas is over, another important area where a chapter itself is dedicated by Lakshmikant is the parliamentary procedures of India. That is the 4th important area, Parliament and parliamentary procedures in India. We know very well that a candidate should have a primary awareness of how the parliament in India works and what constitutes the parliament. As we all know, the Lok Sabha, the Rajya Sabha, then there is a union executive with the president. Naturally, this constitutes a larger meaning of the parliament. What is the composition of the parliament? What are the functions of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha? How they are individually composed of? What are their powers, responsibilities, duties, etc., which have been covered substantially in DD Basu as well as in Lakshmikant. So the parliamentary operation in India, precisely the parliamentary procedure in India, is very important from the exam point of view. So that would be our 4th area, and definitely this is not very easy since it's a broad area that consists of a lot of intricate complexities. We'll deal with those complexities later, but definitely this is an area where a candidate should focus his maximum attention. And out of my experience in the past 10 years, right from 2010 to 2019 prelims question paper, you can find a number of questions, directly or indirectly, sometimes related to the deputy speaker, sometimes related to the prime minister, sometimes related to the vacancy that arises in a parliament with regard to a cabinet minister. Those rules, procedures, protocols, which are comparatively factual, not conceptual, has been expected or has been a potential part of UPSC maybe in the past 10 years, and parliament becomes a very important area. And once parliament is over, now we dealt with the 4th important area right from fundamental rights. Once parliament is over, then the Indian judiciary, with particular reference to the Honorable Supreme Court of India, the Honorable High Courts, and finally the Honorable District Courts of India, also becomes relevant. Here it is very easy to study these areas. I have a technique to study them. You are supposed to read only the Supreme Court. If you are having using Lakshmikant, there is a chapter that is dedicated to the Supreme Court of India in the Lakshmikant. You are supposed to read that single chapter alone, and what you are supposed to do is that take the corresponding chapter in High Court, take the corresponding chapters that deal with the District Court, and develop an understanding about them. You are supposed to compare and learn, and it will be very easy. Say for example, there are a number of areas like the court privileges, then the different writs, which is a potential area. We know very well that for the exercising of fundamental rights of an individual, the honorable courts can issue a number of writs like habeas corpus, certiorari, mandamus, quo warranto, prohibition, etc. what is the nature of each writ. This writ is the potential area of question, and which court is entrusted to issue which writ on what subject. This is again an important area where we can expect a number of UPSC questions. So this would be the general pattern of polity questions related to these prominent 4 areas or 5 areas that include the fundamental rights, the most important area, the DPSP, the fundamental duties which is brought in later or added to the Constitution of India later. Then again, definitely the parliament and the parliamentary procedure, then the judicial system of India. And if you attempt to link all these, there is a close connection between all these. You know very well that parliament at the apex, which is the body elected by the people, the elected representatives of the people. Then again, parliament, which is composing of the president, the vice president, then the union executive, the union cabinet, all these things that comes together. Then the judiciary, which is supposed to exercise a checks and balances to maintain an administrative balance in the country. And then only to judiciary. Then another important area is the rights given to people in the form of fundamental rights, the ways and means of administration, that is the directive principles, and finally the responsibility vested in every single individual by part 4A of the Constitution. All these also becomes equally important. Once you cover these areas, again I will tell you how to cover these areas. Many people think, okay, you can read Lakshmikant and that is sufficient. But actually, it is not like that. Reading Lakshmikant alone will not suffice your preparation. Rather, you need to read the current issues related to all these areas. You need to develop a proper understanding of the current developments related to these areas, like new appointments. The Supreme Court Collegium especially has been in news recently. Then the National Judicial Appointments Commission or the NJAC, of course a potentially very important area. Then again, the structure or the constitution of the major courts of the country. Again, any specific aspect related to the fundamental rights. You know very well that in 2017 there was a question with regard to who is the custodian of the Constitution of India, which was definitely a doubtful question. That question was actually not a question drawn from any textbook like Lakshmikant or D.D. Basu, but it was drawn from a recent statement at that point of time issued by the then Supreme Court Chief Justice, who declared himself to be or who considered himself to be the custodian of the Constitution of India. Naturally, there was a doubt regarding that question whether the Chief Justice himself is the custodian of the Constitution of India or whether the President of India should be treated as the custodian of the Constitution of India. So to answer such a question which has a contemporary focus, again, the candidate should be well prepared with regard to the polity area. He needs to develop a clear-cut understanding regarding the recent developments, especially in the months of February, March, April, and of course May, if the exam is postponed, with regard to the recent political developments in the country. This area constitutes a pivotal area for any candidate, and if you can solve this area clearly, I am 10% sure that you can answer 55 to 60%, that is out of 10, you can definitely answer 6 questions of polity, because out of my analysis, my strategic study of the polity question papers which were delivered by UPSC from 1990 onwards, 66% of the questions, that is out of 100, almost 2/3% of the questions were derived from these 5 core areas. And if these 5 core areas are well understood by the candidate, I am making your job easy. If these 5 core areas are well understood by the candidate, your job is done. I may be coming back again with regard to other polity, that is another 1/3 areas to be dealt by the candidate in another session. Thank you.